Hi and welcome sa channel. So today I'm going to unbox this ROG Strix RTX 3070. I wasn't really planning to do any video out of this, pero dahil yung friend ko tinanong ako sa performance nito on FF14 and I already went out of my way to install this on my benchmark PC, might as well do a video about it. Diba? I bought this card not for the channel, but for myself. I wanted a 4K gaming machine specifically for JRPGs or couch gaming. So again, this is the ROG Strix Gaming Graphics Card RTX 3070. OC edition din siya with 8GB of VRAM na GDDR6. Yung Asus is written in a subtle manner. So gray font lang siya na maliit over a black background. Hindi gaano kita pero in case you're not aware, ROG is from Asus. To give also a background, Asus usually has a few series per GPU chipset. Merong MSRP series na Phoenix or Dual, which is the base GPU. May mas mahal din pero mid-range gaming series, which is called TUF. And then the premium series, which is the ROG Strix. Ang idea is that the better the series, the better the cooling is. Asus will also usually sell this card for the same price as the next tier GPU chipset. So bali kung makikita mo itong ROG Strix sa market, this would be the same price as a base model of 3070 Ti. Pero to be clear, this may not perform as well as the 3070 Ti. Ang promised performance pa rin dito is from 3070. So sa likod, pinagmamalaki yung cooling, max contact heat spreader daw, and then 2.9 slots, and then may axial tech fans. So may sinasabi din sila sa engineering, so top shelf capacitors, chokes, and MOSFETs. Then may sinasabi din silang super alloy power 2. For aesthetics, okay, ROG Strix really has one of the prettier cards out there, so no questions ako sa part na to. Then software, I think bloatware lang din ito. So, I didn't install any software from them. Sa output ports, may dalawang HDMI at saka tatlong DisplayPort. And it also has 3 years limited warranty, which DigiServe, kung saan ko to nabili, also acknowledges. Opening the box. So, sa loob may isa pang box ulit. Then, itong font ng Strix, parang Gundam yung style for some reason. It reminds me of Gundam or probably a mecha anime. Then, opening the inner box. Packaging wise, I have to say, this is the best way to package a GPU. Pagka bukas mo ng box, ito na agad yung GPU. So, wala nang foam dito. Yung foam, nandito sa taas, nakadikit siya din sa box. It still serves na maprotektahan yung GPU mo pag naalog-alog. Then, another thing na gusto ko dito sa packaging nila is may slot ang kamay, So, pwede mong kunin yung GPU mo from here. Okay, ang bigat niya. So, ito yung GPU. Let's set aside this for now. Wala nang space yung table ko. So, may mga accessories sa box. First is ito. Yung parang ruler nila. Then, next is yung zip ties. Velcro zip ties. Then, sa parang envelope, may makikita ka na ganito. Which is, hindi ko alam para saan. And then, may collectible card. Tapos, meron pang laman na manual. Then, warranty. Saka, thank you card. So, hindi nawawala kay Asus ang thank you card. So, itong other accessories. I think kung bata ka, matutuwa ka sa mga accessories na to. Pero dahil manong na ako, so para sa akin na extra lang ito, Extra kalat lang ito. Okay, ito na uli yung GPU. So again, props to Asus for this GPU kasi madali kunin, So yung static pad niya pag ganito. Usually kasi yung static back pag ganun yung pasok, di ba? Medyo mas mahirap kunin yung GPU kapag doon manggagaling. So again, good packaging from Asus. Anyway, bigat. So this GPU is very heavy, So dahil mabigat siya, timbangin natin. So it's around 1.8 kilos. So ganoon siya kabigat. Pero may mga plastic na magagaan. think negligible yung weight naman ito. Hindi man lang gumalaw yung weighing scale. So it has 3 fans, no? I think yung diameter is 95 millimeters. May fan stop mode din siya, no? So ibig sabihin, kapag hindi pa mainit or lumabig na yung GPU mo, nakastop lang yung fans. Aesthetics kung vertical mounting, ito yung makikita mo, which is very pretty in my opinion. No? Ang ganda ng graphics card na to. And then I noticed na meron parang coordinates dito. I think this is the same as the coordinates ng ruler kanina. And then when I googled it, napunta ako sa Pegatron office, which is I think related sa Asus based sa Wikipedia. Next is that the GPU is very tall and wide. So length is 318.5 mm, then yung height is 140 mm. For this card, be sure na kakasya sa case nyo to, no? In my case, before this video was shot, I had to do hoops para lang matanggal siya. Una sa lahat, since mataba siya, medyo mahirap sungkitin yung PCIe lock. Hindi siya kasya sa case, hindi ko siya matanggal kasi natama sa fan. The other way sana na pwede ko siya tanggalin is pagilid sana. Pero ngayon, natama naman siya sa CPU cooler. Also be careful dahil baka tumama sa RAM lock since mahaba yung card, no? Dati hindi nag-post yung 6800 ko kasi inangat nung RAM lock yung GPU ko. Malagkit pawis ko nun pero in the end, napansin ko na hindi lang pala lapat yung dikit ng GPU. So in this case, hindi ko matatanggal yung fan na nakaharang. So I have to remove yung isang fan sa taas din. My other option is to remove the heatsink of the CPU. Pero parang mas hassle yun. Tapos magre-replace pa ako. So I'd rather remove the 2 fans. So saktong di ko rin mabunot from the case dahil sa I/O plate. So para matanggal ko siya, kailangan ko ikabig palabas. Tapos pataas. So sobrang hassle tanggalin. This might not be a problem, no, during your installation since huli namang ini-install yung fan. Pero this could be a problem during the maintenance of your system. Anyway, yung kapal is around 2.9 slots. You have to take note of this, lalo na kung sa M80X case mo siya ilalagay. Yung PCIe by 16 slot na meant for GPU sa ibang motherboards, nasa pangalawang slot. So kung ilalagay mo to on your M80X case, baka hindi na makahinga yung GPU mo. Be mindful of that. It also has 2 HDMI and 3 display ports. Sa ilalim, makikita mo yung beefy cooling solution. Although take note na beefy solution doesn't always translate to better cooling. So sa likod, it has a regular looking pero aesthetically pleasing looking backplate. It also has dual V BIOS kung tawagin. May P mode which stands for performance and may Q mode which stands for quiet. Pwede mo itagel sa gusto mong mode yung BIOS niya. By default, naka-P mode siya, if I remember correctly. So, yung isang silbi nung dual V BIOS, para sa iba, backup yung isa. So, may mga tao na gusto mag-flash ng BIOS, so pwede nilang i-switch muna sa Q mode, tapos doon nila i-flash yung BIOS. And kapag na-brick mo yung BIOS na yun during flashing, pwede ka pa rin mag-boot sa kabilang BIOS. No? So, some people do flash their BIOS. So, ako hindi. For power connector, may dalawang 8-pin siya na required. So pag di mo sinaksak yung power connector mo and nakasaksak na yung PC mo, may LED na iilaw dito. If I remember correctly, kulay pula yung iilaw. Otherwise, pag maayos yung pagkakasaksak mo, wala nang ilaw. Yung ibang Asus na GPU, may iwan na puti kapag nakasaksak ng maayos. Pero para sa akin, nakakasira ng aesthetics kung may iwan pang ilaw. So good na tinanggal nila if you plug the connectors properly. Okay, since may backplate siya, sipitin natin kung may thermal pads. Okay, so yung gray na yun yung thermal pads. And parang based on the position, nakadikit siya sa mukhang VRM yung nakadikit sa kanya. So yung VRM na may thermal pads, bigat. Yung VRM na may thermal pads, nakadikit siya dito sa backplate. So for the uninitiated, yung ibang init ng VRM pwedeng ma-spread dito sa backplate since backplate can serve as a heat spreader. So kung may case fans ka, it can help the heat to be blown away. So sa shroud, this has RGB, no? By default, unicorn puke siya. Pero sabi, pwede mo daw makontrol using Armoury Crate. I haven't tested that since ayoko mag-install ng RGB software. I think nasa box yung kulay, no? So ganito yung kulay niya by default. I'm not sure kung meron sa fans. Parang di ko napansin na may ilaw yung fans. Pero sure ako dito sa shroud may ilaw siya. So ang comment ko dito sa shroud na to sobra siya, no? Ito pa lang, for the RGB is around 1 slot na. So nung sinukat ko, around 2.5 cm to. And then may mga plastic pa dito, which is around 0.5 cm. Overall, yung mga plastic, around 3 cm na. Tapos ang sabi sa website, yung height nito is around 5.78 cm. So, ibig sabihin, more than 50% yung natakpan na. It could have been better, no? So, pwede na lang bawasan yung shroud. Kahit mga 0.5 cm lang, bawasan nila to. Para dito lumabas yung init. Based on limited personal knowledge, just half a cm of shroud na mawala could cool the GPU even further. Around 2 to 5 degrees Celsius based on what I know, no? Based on my limited personal knowledge. To be clear, I'm not saying that the cooling of this GPU is bad. In fact, based on GPU core temps, it is pretty much acceptable. What I'm saying is that it could have been better, especially for a premium product. So yun, I think na-cover ko na lahat. As for the benchmarks, wala pa today. Actually, tapos na ako sa benchmarks dahil na-feel ko na maaselan ako tanggalin to from the case. So tinapos ko na lahat. Pero hindi ko pa ma-release since I need another set of data for comparison. So if you want to see the performance of this card, tune in next week. So that's all for now. Bigat. So that's all for now. Do like or dislike. Comment on what you think about this graphics card and subscribe for more unboxing. Bye!